All right, everybody.
Mm.
We are here. I've made it to my first live event. So excited to be here, especially with Curtis. Thank you so much for joining me today, Curtis.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Hopefully, there isn't too much of a delay. So, y'all just let us know in the comments if there's any issues or problems. We'll do the best that we can to fix it. I see that Mike is already here. MNTV family is in the building.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Mike, let us know if there's any audio issues. We've been working on the tech, troubleshooting and whatnot. So let us know if anything is off for you. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us. Yeah, when you join, let us know in the chat where you're joining from. You're also welcome to shout out your own channel in the chat. This is an opportunity for all of us to get to know each other, make some connections, that type of thing. All right. So let's dive right in. We have a whole lot that we want to cover. As you all saw from the title, we'll be talking about the movie Monkey Man. So let me just say this right off the bat. There will be spoilers. Like we will be diving deep into this movie. We're going to talk about the characters, the plot, the Easter eggs, the music, like everything. So if you haven't seen it and you plan on seeing it, now's your time to make that decision. Like, do I still want to stay here and listen to what they have to say? Or do I want to save this and come back later? Like the choice is yours, but go ahead and make that now.
Yes, because we're gonna get very microscopic into this movie. So,
Absolutely. So I don't want to hear no mess later. Like you were warned, there will be spoilers. So anyway, while you're making that decision, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. Curtis, I'll turn it over to you and let you start that off.
okay. Well, I'm Curtis from. Right now, my channel is the Curtis York, but I think we're gonna change it to Yorktown just because I think it better fits everything that's going on with what we're doing. I primarily focus on family content. I also do sneaker reviews, which I know my guy Mike hates, and all kind of other little things. But I try to primarily stay within the family realm. We do a little bit of small traveling around the Charlotte area because I'm based in Charlotte, and we focus on that type of thing. I've done a couple. What else did I do? Nothing too crazy. For the most part, that's where we try to like live and stay. We've done a lot of reviews as well, which, shout out to Alicia and Mike and everybody else. We've done a lot of collabs revolving around food. So that's pretty cool. And, I'm just really, really, really happy to be here. And my goal tonight is to make sure that we get you over that hump to what, 300 was it?
300,
300.
that's the
So
goal.
300. So hopefully some of my people will come in and we can help get you over to 300 tonight.
Yes, I would love that. So as y'all can see here on the screen, this is the channel for now. It's the Curtis York. So go ahead and follow him now. But I love this, this whole I don't know what the term is. You know how people say like exclusive, right? We got the exclusive, y'all. That there's gonna be a rebrand. Yorktown, citizens of Yorktown, stand up. What made you think about doing a potential rebrand?
Um, just with all the initially when I started, it was just me doing stuff. But as the families kind of gotten more involved, the kids are getting a little older. Because at one point we didn't even show Amir, like he wasn't on social media at all for like the first year. Like we didn't have any pictures of him or anything. But gradually as time progressed, we kind of felt a little more comfortable putting the kids on screen and stuff. And I kind of want to do the whole family thing, not necessarily exploiting the kids or anything crazy like that, but just showing more of the day to day life, and just calling it the Curtis York is just a small sample of what we do in Yorktown. So I'm focusing more on the we approach, not the me. So that's where we're going with Yorktown.
Yes, I love that. More the we, not the me. Cracking up because Mike from MNTV family, he says no, he doesn't hate it. He says he doesn't hate the sneaker reviews. He says you've got knowledge that I'll never have. Is that true? Will Mike never get the level of sneaker knowledge that you have, Curtis?
Oh no, it's not that hard. I mean, it's just what you choose to do with your time. I mean, I don't think if you're not willing to devote that stuff, which I don't think Mike is, he has his own stuff going on. He just got the Shade sponsorship, so congratulations with that. I mean, you'll have a level of Shade expertise that I don't think I'll ever have because that's where you put your attention. So
Exactly. I love that. I need the air horn with
right,
MNTV family, right?
we're gonna get the sound
MNTV.
effects together eventually.
Yes, with that sponsorship. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat. Y'all make sure that you follow MNTV family, Mike and the family as they do their travels. All right. So now I'll share a little bit about who I am, right? Thank you all so much for joining today's live. My name is Alicia Pulliam, but I go by Alicia Nicole on pretty much all the socials. About me. So I am on my fourth career in life within the military. I worked for the government. I worked for corporate America. And now I am out here on my own. I'm an actress. I'm an MC. And it's been fun. It's been a very fun journey. And so I am trying to build up my expertise when it comes to content creation and videos and things like that. And so that's why I launched a YouTube channel. I kind of had one for a season and then I fell off. But now that I do this stuff full time, like, yeah, I now have my channel. So as Curtis said, I'm working very hard to get to 300 subscribers. I'm up at like 295. Sometimes it's 294, sometimes it's 293. One time it was 296. And I was excited. But we're close. So we really appreciate it. If you all would be so kind to subscribe to both of our channels, I'll go ahead and drop this in the chat for you as well. You'll hear us like shouting out our people who are a part of our whole YouTube crew. But yeah, we'd love it if you all could just hit that subscribe button and then actually show us some love, right? Right, Curtis? Like it's one thing to subscribe, but then when people don't actually show up and show love, like that's a tough pill to swallow, huh?
Yeah, man, it's like you might as well not even subscribe if you're not gonna engage. I mean, granted, the subscription helps a little bit, but it helps a lot more when you actually engage and share the content or not even share the. Sometimes a comment goes a long way, man. There's been plenty of times where I was like, you know what, I'm done with this thing. I'm giving up on YouTube, and then I just get this random comment that says, hey, that was cool. And I'm like, all right, I'm good now. So, those comments really go a long way. So definitely, if you decide to hit that subscribe button, then, understand that you're not just a random subscriber that gets lost in the drop of the ocean. You're actually, dealing with people that will engage and have conversations with you. So, it's so much bigger than just being a subscriber.
Mm-hmm. So much bigger. And so we appreciate you all for engaging with us tonight. And also, if you're watching the replay, much love to you too. Thank you so much for being here with us. So I'm going to say it one more time. This is it. There will be spoilers. We are
Yes.
going to dive deep into this. I was
Yes.
talking to Curtis about it earlier, and I was like, we're gonna be like the Black Siskel and Ebert. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, nah, that's not us. We're gonna be more like men on film. You remember Men on Films, Curtis?
Oh man, and I'm bald, so and you have the little fro. That's
Right, this is us. Hated
oh
it.
man.
This is us, Men on Films. For those who aren't familiar, this was a dynamic duo from In Living Color. Look it up. You will not be disappointed. It was hilarious. And of course, their tagline was hated it. So when I found this picture, I'm like, yeah, we are like the modern day version of Men on Films. I couldn't think of any other name because not a man, but hey, this is the modern day version of Men on Film. So hopefully you all will appreciate that. Okay,
Okay.
so let's start from the very, very beginning. Like, why are we even doing this collab? So I'll share with you all the backstory that Curtis had put out a video, and I'm actually going to go ahead and share the link to this video here. This was a video that he did. And actually, Curtis, I mean, I don't want to tell the story. It's your story. So you and your wife, y'all got invited to go check out Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I was just randomly checking my email, and I'm a Amazon Prime member, and I got an invite from Amazon Prime to see the first 3 episodes, I think, of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And so I'm like, hey, why not? Let's do it. Make a video about it, and just talk about it. And that was, I guess, the seed you could say that kind of sparked this thing. So I'll let you take it from there. But yeah, it was very, very modest intentions and something so small, and you never know how things blossom. So,
Right, you never know. So I saw that video and it was really good because y'all gave us the full tour, right? Starting with like, okay, these are the fits, this was we're gonna wear, like the conversation in the car there, and of course the reviews after. And so when I saw that video, I'm like, well, shoot, I want to do a movie review as well. So around that time, One Love was coming out. That was Bob Marley's movie. And so I decided to go see that one. So I'll just drop the link in here if y'all want to go check that video out as well. So I went to go watch it and kind of, recorded my journey there at the movies. And then I came home. I got the lights all set up. I was prepared and ready. I had my notes. I literally had papers of notes that I had taken when I was there at the movie theater. And then my audio stopped working. But as I am learning as a content creator and in this YouTube game, the show must go on and we don't waste nothing. Like there's no wasted content. We will find a way to use it. So just to give you all a little disclaimer and a heads up right now, I had to do some bad lip reading. If anyone's familiar with bad lip reading, I had to do that because I recorded so much and I just went back and did a voiceover. But anyway, yeah, it stemmed from I saw Curtis do a review on going to see a movie, or in this case, it was a show. And then I decided to do one. And then it was like, you know what? It makes sense for us to just come together and, do a collab video where we both talk about a movie that we've seen. So, Curtis, with that in mind, do you consider yourself a movie buff?
I do, I do. I haven't been able to get to the movies as much as I like to with three kids. It's kind of hard to coordinate that, but I think the last movie that I saw prior to this one was Dune 2, and I went to see that like two or three times just because it was such a good movie. So, yeah, I definitely consider myself a movie buff, and I'm not the type of person I just see a movie one time and I think I saw it. Like I have to watch reviews on it, which I haven't watched any reviews for this movie in particular yet. But usually I watch reviews and I just kind of invest myself and go down rabbit holes in these movies. So yeah, for sure, 100% movie buff. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would call myself a movie buff. I mean, I probably should now that I'm in this industry, right? In the entertainment industry, it's like you better like movies. My challenge, and this is just me personally, is I struggle with remembering names. So I'm that
Mm.
person that's in the movie theater or we watching something on TV at home, and I'm like, oh, that's the guy who played in the such and such, and I can go deep into detail on like what they played in, but I don't remember the name of the movie and I definitely don't remember their name. So if
Man.
anybody has any tips on how you can combine names and faces and like remember them in your head, I could use that because one day I'm gonna be on someone's red carpet and somebody is gonna come up to me and they're gonna say, "Hi, Alicia, I loved you in the such and such," and I'm gonna be like, "And I also loved you in it," or whatever, right? But I'm not gonna know their name, so I gotta
So
work
let
on
me ask you this. I'm gonna break script a little bit. Script.
that.
So, as a person that's behind the scenes on sets and things like that, do you see movies differently than the average person, knowing what you know?
Yes, that is a very good question. So these days, I find myself starting to analyze movies, and I've noticed that it's changed the more that I learn in the industry. So, starting from the very beginning, one of the first opportunities that I had was a background extra. There's a TV show on HBO. I think they're coming out with another season. It's called Sex Lives of College Girls.
Okay, yeah, my wife
Okay,
likes
and
that show.
so it's at the time I hadn't seen it, but my agents were like, "Yo, like they're doing some background stuff. This will be a chance for you to get on set and just kind of see what it's like. You should, put your name in the hat and see if they'll choose you." And so they did. So we filmed for several days. It's like fun fact that people may not know. The show itself is set in Vermont, and they filmed a lot of the footage in Vermont, but then they couldn't use it for whatever reason. Oh, so good to see folks joining us. So, so yeah, they weren't able to use the footage, in which case they came to Seattle, which is where I am. I don't think I said that in the beginning. Hey, I'm here from Seattle. So they did some filming here. And so when I was on set, I was able to see, the world of background extras. Now, cut to anytime I went to the movies or anything that I saw after that, I started paying attention to the people in the background. And it became annoying for family and friends because I would elbow them and be like, "You see that lady in a pink sweater?" And then the scene would shift. I'd be like, "There she go again. There she go again. There she go again." Right? Because that was something I knew when it came to background extras. So then, after the whole background extra thing, I actually did some, official training. I went to the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts. And so then I got to really understand about like camera angles and lighting. And we did combat where we, did the fake punches and the kicks and all of that. And so, yeah, so now I pay attention to those things when
Wow.
I see movies. And I don't think it takes me out of the story. You may sometimes hear, people, especially let's say someone who loves horror movies. And so they're really into horror movies. And then when a new one comes out, they're just like, it doesn't look realistic, right? They're kind of negative about it because they've watched and analyzed them for so long. But that's not me. I think I get
Mhm.
even more excited when I can figure out, oh, they did this in order to make that scene. Because it's kind of like, kudos, girl, you're learning. So yeah, I don't know what's long, but yeah. Well, yes. Hey, to everybody that's joined us right now, thank you so much for being here. We're glad to have you. Let us know in the chat where are you joining us from, and go ahead and shout out your channel too. Right, this is a whole collaboration for the entire YouTube family. Share the link with your friends. Tell them to join us as well. We haven't quite gotten to the movie just yet.
Mm.
Give some more folks time to join in here, but we do appreciate you being here. So we were just chit chatting how we got into this, right? Curtis did a video talking about going to see Mr. and Mrs. Smith with his wife. I saw that video. I made a video on about a review of One Love, Bob Marley's movie, and now we've come together as movie buffs to talk about Monkey Man. And one more time, just to let y'all know, there are going to be spoilers. So I guess the big question though is like, why Monkey Man? Like, out of okay, you decide you want to come together and collab and talk about a movie, but out of all the movies out there, why did you choose Monkey Man? Uh, Curtis, what was it that was appealing to you about the movie? Like, before you got to go see it.
Honestly, you told me about it, and I was like, okay. It was in the back of my brain. I saw a couple trailers of it, and I was like, maybe I'll see it because the action scenes looked pretty good in the trailer. So, it piqued my interest. But the trailers didn't really show that much, so it was kind of hard to figure out what was going on. So I was kind of on the fence about it. But then when you asked about it, I'm like, all right, because really my mind was set on, and I think this should definitely be the next movie we go see. By the way, Civil War. That's one that I really want to see.
Okay, I had
but
to pause for a second. I'm like Civil War, but this is a Marvel movie, yeah?
No, 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 no. This one is about so I think Texas and California break away from the United States and form their own country, like a civil war in the future. So,
Okay.
yes. Um
All right, okay.
but yeah, I saw the trailers and I saw that Jordan Peele was attached to it. So I was like, I think it's definitely worth checking out for sure. And then when you said something, it kind of solidified it for me. So that's what led me into it. What about you?
Yeah, I thought the trailer looked good. It was different. Just putting it out there. I had not seen an action movie where the main character is Indian, right?
Hmm.
And I don't watch Bollywood movies, right? I'm sure everybody's probably like, oh girl, there's a bunch of them out there. I wasn't aware of them. So when I saw this trailer, that piqued my interest. Now I'll be honest, at first, because I would see the trailer show up like, in between my YouTube videos and on TV and stuff. And at
Right.
first, I'm one of those people, I'm not a fan of horror movies. So when those commercials come on, I will mute the TV, or I'm the one that's like la la la, because I just don't want
Really?
that imagery. Yeah, I have a very vivid imagination, and so when I see scary things, it stays with me. So, like the trailer would start, and you would see the Monkey Man. I'm like, no, uh-uh. But I finally sat and watched it, and I'm like, this looks like it's going to be good. And there was the fight scenes and stuff. And then also, just like you, when I did a little research into it, and I saw Jordan Peele was attached, I'm like, oh, it's going to be good. Like, that may be, a blessing and a curse, right? Anytime we see his name, we're like, it's
Right.
absolutely going to be good. But I figured it was. So that made me want to get into it. And then you mentioned earlier how you haven't, been reading the reviews and things like that. I wasn't reading the reviews either, but because I'm trying to learn about the industry, I do get email notifications from some of the publications that talk about entertainment and movies and TV and stuff. And so I got an email alert that talked about Dev Patel, which is the creator, writer, director of all of this. He did an interview and he was talking about some of the disparities that they faced when they were trying to get this movie together. And it just like blew my mind because I'm like, even with Jordan Peele attached, like y'all were still struggling. So that was kind of like the extra to make me go, let me go see this movie and find out what's going on there.
Right.
Yep, yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for the people that are joining us. I was popping up on the screen. We got Alberta, Canada in the house. We have Alabama in the house. Eastern North Carolina. Curtis, did you know Melinda is from
I
Eastern
had
North?
no idea. I was just about to say, yeah, I had no idea. I'm down in Charlotte. Hey Mike, well, can you do me a favor? I found everybody else's, but I can't find Melinda. Can you find her page and drop it in the comments so everyone can subscribe up to her as well? I got y'all too. I just couldn't get her. So if you could do that, I definitely appreciate you, buddy.
Yes. And please make sure that you do subscribe to all the folks that are here with us. And y'all go ahead and share the link so other people can join as well. So, all right. So we figured it out. Why Monkey Man, right? And I think the common thing that we have is that both of us saw Jordan Peele attached, and we were like, "Yeah, let's go check it out." Okay,
Hmm.
so the film officially came out. I had to look this up because I forgot when, but it came out on April 5th. So it's kind of funny that we are like a month to the day talking about it here on May 5th. So that's pretty interesting. So, it already been out for a month. So what was your experience in actually like finding a theater that was still showing it? And like, were there decent show times? Because, sometimes if you wait too long, it either won't be in the theaters in your area or it's like really hard to find a showtime.
Right. So I think, and that was a good question. I think, for me, because my schedule is so flexible now, but the afternoons are so jam packed with all these kids, it's easier for me to go during the day. And what I found was that there were very few daytime showings. I think I ended up going 2 o'clock on Friday because that was the only time that was available other than 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock was dead because that's bedtime for the kids, and by then I'm ready to start unwinding and getting ready myself. So I ended up finding a 2 o'clock on Friday, but other than that, it was all afternoon, like late afternoon to early nighttime movies. So that was kind of my experience and what I saw, and then I ended up having to go to the next town over, which is Concord, which technically people still consider it to be Charlotte, but it's like the outskirts. It's its own separate town. So it wasn't too bad finding it, but those were just kind of little things that I ran into. How about you?
Yeah, it was showing in I think three theaters that popped up here in the Seattle area, but they were all early showing. So it's like you're
Mm,
going to,
it's the opposite.
matinee. Yeah, you're going to matinee. I want to say maybe the latest showing was like 4 p.m. So I ended up just picking a morning showing. I think I saw it at like 10:55 a.m., which felt so weird being at the movies that early. Because usually when I think of people going to the movies early, it's like it's for kids, like the daycare taking all the kids to go see Trolls or something. So they hitting it up at like 10 o'clock in the morning. But there were, let me see, one, two, three, four, five, six. I think there were seven of us in there. There were two, I think it was a family of four, and then two other ladies, and then there was me. And so we kind of just mixed it up because we did reserve our seats, but once we got there, people just kind of moved around.
Hmm.
So yeah, it wasn't too bad, but the family that was there, and this is me making an assumption, they appear to be an Indian family. And
Mm,
when the movie ended, like I wanted to be that person to chase them down and ask questions, but I was like, don't do that. Like, go do your own research,
right.
right? Like, don't expect someone to teach you, girl. There's a way for you to go learn things on your own.
Right.
But I really did want to be like, what did y'all think? And is this
Right.
accurate? But I'm like, let me
Have
not
you
bother.
been to India before?
And that probably would have been right. I go ask them, and they're like, "Girl, we don't know. We from California, right?" And I just really
Right.
so I didn't even go there. So, but yeah, it was cool to see them.
Oh
I
man.
think I did miss one of these comments from Mike. I'm just going to bring this up right quick. So this was from earlier when I was talking about trying to figure out some sort of, and I'm glad he got the word for it, the mnemonic device, right? Something to help you with remembering names and faces and names. So this is cute. He said he would come up with something like Awesome Alicia or Kick Ass Curtis.
Mhm.
So is this going to be our new nicknames in our chat? Huh?
Right. The mnemonics.
Right. Too good. All right. Oh shoot. Yes. Tapping in
Hey,
from B More
E-Rock in the building. Now,
Breakfast.
E-Rock, he has a gaming channel as well. I don't think he posted recently. The last one I saw was I think it was Fall Guys, if I'm not mistaken. The last game I saw, or it was Gang, something like that. I saw it. It's like with the little wobbly people. I'm a gamer. I know, Alicia, you probably don't know much about gaming, so
No, I be
you
in
know.
his comments and I was like, are they zombies? Like, what's going on? He just laughing and
Yeah, so
saying,
shout out to him coming through, man. We gonna definitely drop your link in the chat as well, so everyone can show you some love and support. We definitely appreciate you coming through.
yes, thank you so much for being here. And to everyone, make sure you hit the like button on this video. We truly appreciate it. Keep sharing the link. Let folks know that we're in here. So now, Curtis, I just want to get into your overall response, right? So this is kind of like a rapid fire, I guess.
Hmm.
So first question, yes or no? Did you like the movie Monkey Man?
Yes, I did. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. Like you said earlier, it's very rare that you see an Indian person as a action star and not, a doctor or the sidekick or, all of the stereotypical tropes that you usually see Indian guys as the tech guy or something like that. Like it was
Mhm.
definitely an action movie for sure. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it for what it was, just being an action movie. How deep are we going into? I liked it. Are we getting into details yet? Are we saving that or?
We saved it. That's good right there.
Okay.
You liked it, and I echo everything that you said. Plus one, I liked it as well. Okay.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about what we saw in the trailer, and now after we've seen the movie, was it what you expected?
Um, yes and no. I'll say no because I thought it would have been a little more of the John Wick type situation, and they kind of leaned into it a little bit, even the little Easter egg. But there were a lot of very, very, very slow moments where it just seemed like they were building up, and you know, once I realized that it was an action movie and not a horror movie, because it definitely did have those horror movie feels. I was thinking it was gonna be like a nonstop, fast-paced action movie, and it wasn't. There were a lot of character building and world development aspects too, and it kind of slowed down the pace of the movie in terms of the action. So,
Yeah.
what about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. The flashbacks for anyone who saw the Bob Marley One Love movie, it's a similar pacing where it's like you're in the moment, things are happening, and then all of a sudden you go to this like super slow flashback, and it's like it's giving you glimpses of something that has happened to this character, and we can only assume they use that to help with the character development, but it kind of throws you off a little bit because it's like, where are we now? Like, are we still in the present? Are we in the past? Like, what had happened? So that
Right,
kind of threw me off a little bit too. And I did think it was just going to be, this monkey running around tearing up everybody. That's what I thought it was
right.
going to be the whole time. And no, it's not that. So in terms of like, would I watch it again? Yeah, I would watch it again only because after seeing it in the theater and just kind of thinking back on the things that I saw, I feel like there's stuff I probably missed. So I would like to watch it again, not in the theater again, like on a small screen where I can like pause, rewind, fast forward, like that type of thing. So, what about you?
Yeah.
Would you watch it again, Curtis?
Yeah, I definitely watch it again. And, like you said, there's a lot that you kind of miss or you don't really understand because it's in India. It's an Indian movie. So, there's just things the first time that you won't even think to pay attention to because you're just trying to understand what's going on in the movie. Like, it's a extremely unfamiliar setting. It's just a bunch of stuff that we don't know anything about. So, you're trying to learn and compensate for that at the same time while you're watching the movie. We're like, again, comparing it to John Wick, even though it's not really anything like John Wick. If you watch John Wick, you already know what's happening because it's somewhere in a setting that we're familiar with. Even if they go like India, not India, but England, we can kind of figure England culture is not that different from American culture in terms of the language that they speak and the religions that they have. But just trying to wrap your head around everything that's going on in a totally different culture with a totally different language, and stuff don't even look the way that it looks over here. It's a lot to try to take in and comprehend at once. So I will watch it again just to kind of get a little bit more clarity on what I actually saw.
Yeah, those are some great call outs, and some of that we'll dive into. Thank you for bringing up the language. So, just to put it out there, there are some subtitles. I know how some people feel about watching movies with
Mm.
subtitles. They're like, nah, like they're not into it. It's not a lot. And some of them are repetitive, not repetitive in the sense of you start to learn the language, but it's like some of the things that are being said, you'll see them say them over and over. And so you do have to be mindful of that. Like, you got to pay attention or you're going to miss out. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
So would you recommend this movie to others? I'm just gonna dive in and say yes. I'll recommend it to others, not at the theaters, watch it at home. So what about you?
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want to watch it at home. I wouldn't go to the theater and watch it. You probably couldn't even really watch it in a theater like that now anyway, because I'm pretty sure with the movies that's coming out between this week and next week, you probably won't even have that option
That's true.
unless you go to a rundown movie that's like 3 or 4 months behind. But yeah, I doubt you. I wouldn't recommend going to the movies to watch it.
Yeah, definitely watch it at home. I'm going to put this out there for everyone because I mean, Rotten Tomatoes is our barometer, or as they call it, the tomato meter. I'm assuming that's how they pronounce it. A
Mhm.
lot of times people will take a look at Rotten Tomatoes to decide whether or not they want to go see a movie because let's be honest, the people on Rotten Tomatoes, like they don't play. Now, I say that, but there is the caveat of some people just be out there hating on movies just to hate on movies. But 9 times out of 10, when something is certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes, that means it's a go see, right? And so in this instance, Monkey Man is certified fresh, 89% on the tomato meter. And then for the audience score, 84%. So for anyone who's not familiar with Monkey Man, just real quick, I'm going to read this for you. So it's inspired by the legend of Hanuman, which we'll get into in a moment, who is an icon embodying strength and courage. Monkey Man stars Dev Patel, who is also the writer, creator, director, like all the things. So he plays in it as this anonymous young man who ekes out a meager living in an underground fight club where night after night, wearing a gorilla mask, he's beaten bloody by more popular fighters for cash. After years of suppressed age, Kid, which is what they're referring to him as here, but essentially he's anonymous for a bit when we're watching the movie. But he discovers a way to infiltrate the enclave of the city's sinister elite. As his childhood trauma boils over, his mysteriously scarred hands unleash an explosive campaign of retribution to settle the score with the men who took everything from him. That is a mouthful from Rotten
It
Tomatoes.
is. It is.
It's
Like
a mouthful.
I was listening to you read and I was like, I wonder who wrote that. Like
I'm saying Chat GPT. I could be wrong, but it has a feel that it came from Chat GPT. Now, if you look it up on IMDb, it simply says an anonymous young man unleashes a campaign of vengeance against the corrupt leaders who murdered his mother and continue to systematically victimize the poor and the powerless. To me, that's a bit more spot on, straight to the point. It also gives it away that his mom got killed. But
right.
to me,
Yeah,
it's a
that
little
that's
bit
a huge
better.
spoiler.
Yeah, huge spoiler, right? It's a little bit better than this whole roundabout, like corporate esque type write up. But again, just the main point though is that Monkey Man is certified fresh. So I feel like we were going in the right direction by saying, like, yep, we like it. Yep, we would definitely recommend for other people to check it out. Okay. What did we miss over here in the chat? Oh, Erock was letting us know that he's been working a second job. Okay, so that's why we haven't seen you lately. And that's the life of a creator, right? We're always working on something.
Exactly.
Always working on something. And we have Mike from MNTV Family that says, I hate that things go to streaming so fast after theatrical release. Sometimes, it's a blessing and a curse depending on the movie, right? If it's a movie that's like built for the big screen, right? Where you really need to be in a big theater, where you can truly see all the action on the big screen. You need to see it in IMAX. You get the surround sound. I hate when those quickly go to streaming. But if it's something that's a little more slow, I guess, I think I'm okay for it going with streaming because I'll get to see it sooner at the house. What do you think about that, Curtis?
I don't mind it. I mean, I honestly prefer it. You know, if there's a movie that comes out that I want to see, but I don't want to go to the movies to see it, it's very convenient to just be able to watch it at home. I think that I think that, you know, if there's a movie that's worth going through the movies to see, people are going to go regardless. Like Oppenheimer, that was a movie, like, you had to see it in the theater to get the full experience. Barbie, that was another one, you know. The experience in the movie theater was totally different than watching it at home. And then, of course, you know, Dune 2, which that movie, you had to see that in IMAX. You know, like, there's even going to the movies, like, there's different experiences. You can go see it at a regular screen, you can see it in the IMAX and the
Mhm.
4D, and all of those are totally different experiences. So, you know, I think real movie buffs, they're gonna go see it the way that it's intended to be seen.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think it really matters at this point.
You mentioned the 4D and like 4DX. Have you gone to see a movie in 4DX or in
Yes.
4D? What were
Yes.
your thoughts on what was
Dune
the movie
2.
and what were your thoughts?
Dune 2, and I loved it. I really felt immersed in there. Like, just, it's it's kind of overwhelming, but it really does give you that full experience. And, you know, that's the way that the person that made it intended for you to see it. If you don't see it that way, you don't really get the full experience because you don't see it how it was supposed to be seen. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, man.
I've seen 2 movies in 4DX, and it's interesting because one was a good experience, and the other one I was like, "This too much." So, the one that was a good experience, it was one of the Fast and Furious, like, I guess the recent one that has oh Lord, here I go trying to remember names. The dude that played Aquaman.
Yeah. Now I'm doing it. I can't think of his name.
Y'all let us know in the comments, what's
Jason
the name of
Momoa.
the Yes, so that one. So that Fast and Furious with Jason Momoa. And it wasn't too bad. It's like as soon as it started off, when they were getting ready with the first race scene, you could like smell the exhaust. And then when the cars were like racing, you kind of feel it in the rumbling in the seats and everything. And so it was kind of cool because you were really only moving around when they were like driving the cars. For the
Right.
most part, you just got to sit and relax and watch the movie. And for those that don't know, 4DX is like the whole immersive experience. So think of like going to Disney or something and like being in one of their theaters, right? So you've got the seats themselves that are moving. You've got maybe smells that will come in. Sometimes they might spray things on you like water or whatever. And you've got your 3D glasses. So you do feel like you're a part of the entire experience. The movie,
Exactly.
I mean, it's not out anymore in theaters, but if anyone went to 4DX movie and they watched Shang-Chi, man, I went with some friends and we were literally sliding out the seats because every time they was like jumping, moving, when they were fighting, we were getting kicked in the back. I was like, nah, it's too much. It's too much. And it was my idea to go see it. So I owed all my friends an apology. So anyway, if you haven't been to a 4DX movie, go check it out. All right. Let's see. Some more folks have joined us. Yay! We got Slim in the building. What's up?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Yes,
Slim
sir.
is here from Decatur, where it's greater. Is it though? Is it greater in Decatur? We're going to let you have that one, Slim. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you. Okay, so I think now's a good time for us to dig into the characters. And just so you all know, as we're talking about the characters, we will be talking about, their backstory, their development. We'll be talking about pieces of the plot and the storyline, symbolism, like all the things that we found is basically going to come out as we're talking about the characters. And so I have a few pictures here and there to show you all. But for the most part, I wanted us to try and talk about the characters like in the flow of the story, so that way it makes sense as we're given some intel and details about them. So, starting with our very first character, Monkey Man himself. So this is Dev Patel for anyone who is not familiar, and he's our main character in the show or in the movie. He switches back and forth between being himself and also being Monkey Man, and so we get to see him in his, I guess, 2 life stages. We see him currently today, which is what you see on the screen, but then we also see him as a little boy. Curtis, do you want to talk a little bit about what we learned about him as a little boy in the beginning?
Okay. So, when you say in the beginning, do you mean, because I'm just trying to understand how we're tackling this. In the
Mhm.
beginning, do you mean in the actual beginning of the movie or in the beginning of the story? Because those are
Oh,
two
yeah.
different things.
Yeah. Let's say in the beginning of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, that's when we got the flashback of him and his mom. So let's start there.
Right. So, we don't really know much about him as a kid in the beginning. His mom just tells him a story about the Hanuman, which is the monkey man, and that story kind of taps the oh yeah, definitely. You don't want to get spoiled because definitely spoiler alerts for sure.
Yes. Oh,
So
Slim
yeah,
just joined us. Yeah, we've been saying all
hmm
along there are spoilers.
right, for sure. Um, so I give him like 5 seconds.
Exit stage left.
Right.
Thanks for joining though and keeping the live open. We appreciate the support.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, in the beginning, we don't really know much. His mom just tells him the story and the prayer of the monkey man, which I think we'll go into a little in depth later. But that's pretty much the opening and the introduction to the movie. We see those two talking. She tells him the prayer, and then we jump into the future. So,
Mhm.
is there anything you want to add or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just talk a little bit about Hanuman because I did like do just a little bit of research.
Hmm.
So in the story, she's telling him about the monkey man. So that is a legit story in India, and I'll just read this to you. Also, Hanuman, he's one of the Hindu gods who has the face of a monkey and the body of a man, and he has these special powers and qualities that he uses, and he's able to help a legendary prince rescue his wife. I'll just kind of leave it there. So, in the story that we see in the movie, it's the same story. Hanuman is very hungry. He's looking around in the trees and he sees this, giant piece of fruit that to him looks to be a mango. He jumps up, he grabs it to take a bite of it, and it turns out to actually be the sun. And because he's, gotten a little too big for his britches, so to speak, and he's up there grabbing this from grabbing the sun in the sky to eat it, the gods, the Hindu gods that are up there, they strike him down. So in the story, when you're looking it up online, it talks about they used a thunderbolt, and he essentially was killed. But basically, this is a mom telling the story to her baby, basically. So she's just like, the gods took his powers away, and basically that's that on that. So we
So
have
what's
this.
interesting? Ooh,
Go
let me
ahead.
chime in real quick. So what's
Yeah.
interesting about that, and I just thought of it as you were explaining the story.
Hmm.
It's crazy how no matter where you are in the world, there's very similar stories. So hearing you talk about Monkey Man, it made me think about the Greek story. I think it was the Greeks, the boy who flew too close to the sun, and
Icarus.
then he
Yes.
lost his wings.
Mhm.
So it's just crazy how wherever you go, there's very similar stories. And I think that says that we have a lot more in common than we like to admit, so
That's
that
right.
just randomly popped in my head as you were telling the story.
Yes, that is a good reference. So yeah, y'all, we're going to be talking about symbolisms, things, and if we say something that also, strikes an idea in your mind, let us know in the chat so that we can all talk about it. So yeah, so because Hanuman he did use his powers in service of others, he's come to symbolize the perfect Hindu. So this is someone who has special qualities. They're not selfish with them, and they use those abilities to help people. So that's just kind of like just something to keep in mind. Put a pin in that because more to come as we continue about this. Okay, so that's the monkey man himself. So then the next character that we meet, and I don't have pictures for everybody, so we're just gonna talk about some of them without photos. But I was really trying to like just pick out everybody. Maybe they weren't like a core character, but they played some part in the story. And so
Right.
the next person I want to talk about was the ringleader for the fight. So if you remember from the synopsis, we learned that Monkey Man, he comes from, the poorest areas. And so he's going to essentially a fight club, right? He's like in this fight ring and he's there fighting like night after night. And he's doing it in order to get paid. He needs money. So this is how he's making his money. And there is a man there. I had to look this up because I didn't remember them saying his name, but his name was Tiger. And he was a white man from South Africa who was in charge of the whole fight ring. And he'd be the ring announcer, bringing in the fighters, collecting all the money, so on and so forth. So Curtis, I'm just gonna say it right now. I couldn't stand that man. I hated
He was
him.
a colonizer.
Yes, yes, yes. 1000%. Just a shady, I mean, not that this was a legit business, but just a shady businessman who's really only thinking about himself, like could not care less about, everyone who was a part of the fight ring. Um
Exploitative.
yes, yes. Like I'm just gonna stop there. What do you want to say about Tiger?
That's it. I mean, he wasn't really a major character to the development or anything like that, other than, I think that they intentionally put him in there because wherever you go in the world, you just have some colonizing, exploitative white people involving themselves in stuff that don't have anything to do with them. And they figure out how to get in the way and just take advantage of people.
Mm-hmm. And taking advantage in like the worst way, right? Because all of those fighters, I'm sure, had a similar backstory. They're poor, they're doing what they can to try and get money. And we learned that like the fights are rigged, which I mean, you can make the assumption that they were rigged too. But based on what I saw, and hopefully I interpreted this correctly from my understanding, like Monkey Man was intended to lose. And he would get more money. I think I even made a note about this. It's like he'd get an extra payout for the more bleeding that he did or something like that. Was that what you got from the story too?
Yeah, I mean, again, just exploit. Just it was. I think he was a symbol, and maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but he just represents, what other people do when they go into different nations under the terms of colonizing. They exploit the people. They take what they can from them. They treat them like crap, and then when they're no longer useful, they just get rid of them, and then they replace them with somebody new. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep,
don't
there's
know.
always someone in need waiting in the wings, and so yeah, they're always ready to exploit them. So that was Tiger. Now, this next character, we don't actually meet him yet, but we do hear about him on the TV. And so this character is named Baba Shakti. And when we hear about him, like through the news, we kind of see some like clips of him as he's going about his life or whatever. So I don't know the official term of what you would call him other than like a spiritual guru or a spiritual leader, but
I
he
think
has,
that's what they called him, a
they
spiritual
call him
leader.
that. Okay, so he's the spiritual leader who's out here rubbing elbows with those in politics, with all the rich people. Like they're coming to him for guidance. He's supposedly getting, the word from above and helping them, air quotes, helping them in their journey. And I thought it was interesting though, because like the reporters, and we kind of see this throughout, the reporters are asking him like those hard hitting questions, like, okay, so you're out here saying this is good for the people, but meanwhile, workers, like we just talked about, workers are getting exploited, people are losing their land, they're losing their homes, they're out here protesting. And it seemed like he had just a little slick, shady answer to all of it, right, Curtis?
Yeah. I mean, I saw him and I just thought about, and don't kill me, y'all, but we going to keep it 100. I just thought about the shady black preachers over here that, they use the word to just take advantage of people. I think recently there was a guy in Brooklyn. He was driving Rolls Royces and had all these fancy cars and stuff, and they caught him because he was being flashy on the internet. And I think we particularly, yeah, we're gonna get deep, y'all.
Yeah.
I think we have a habit of just blindly trusting people, and apparently, again, no matter where you go, it seems like people are people. They may look Indian or they may be Chinese or whatever you call it. Wherever you go, people are people. People need something or somebody to believe in, even if that person is the same person that's literally burning down your stuff and exploiting you and taking advantage of you.
Mhm.
If it sounds good and it's something that's appealing to the ears, then people will close their eyes in order to follow. So that's
Mhm.
kind of the vibes I got from him. He was
Yes.
tapped in with the politicians, like you said. It was just a greasy religious figure.
A greasy religious figure, and you're right, we'll see those types of people. And pretty much like I'm just gonna say across all the religions. I don't know enough to like back that up with proof, but I just feel like when there's someone who has a way to like infiltrate leadership or to get some sort of access to power, And if they can say the right things, then they're going to do that. And it's really unfortunate because there may be instances of political leaders, right? Like we do see one guy, like we saw him really quick near like the end, who he seemed like maybe he was on the up and up, but essentially he was just going to be a pawn by Baba Shakti. And we see later that like pretty much everybody's getting played by this man, and he really doesn't care about others. This does kind of touch a little bit on a couple other topics, so we just might as well touch them now. We wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about the caste system and then also about religion. So I'll start with the religion piece since this is their spiritual guru. So the major religion that's in India is Hinduism. And it was really interesting when we saw Tiger at the Fight Club ring, where he made this comment about the mix of people who were there to see the fights. And he's like, we've got, Indian people here, which the majority of them would be Hindu. He's like, we've got some Muslims in here. And he's like, we even have closeted Christians. And the crowd was like, boo. And I'm like, not them booing the Christians. But you got to think about where are we in the world, right? For this particular setting. So just a little bit about Hinduism. It is the major religion in India. And when it comes to Hinduism, they're really big on believing in karma, reincarnation, and the idea that people's actions and thoughts determine their current and future lives. They also believe in this concept of equal birth of all human beings. Stay with me, Curtis, because I know you're about to roll the eyes like, oh, really? I saw in this movie. But one of the teachings in the Hindu religion states, and this is a quote, no one is superior, none inferior. All are brothers marching forward to prosperity. Hinduism teaches that the divine is equally present in all, and it promotes practices of uplifting those who suffer and condemning all forms of prejudice and discrimination. After hearing that, what are your thoughts now on Baba Shakti?
I'm trying to figure out how that is the system, but you have the caste system at the same time. Like, how does that work? I mean,
tell us. I mean, we're not experts, y'all. We're just sharing what we've throughout the years of what we've read, but share what you know about the caste system, which I'm sure is the little bit that I know too.
Right. I mean, basically, from my understanding, and this is just me going off the top of my head, the darker you are, the worse you get treated. And I think the darkest people were called the untouchables, and you weren't even supposed to literally touch them or look at them. You just kind of ignored them, and that's my basic understanding of the caste system. The closer you were to white, the better you were off, and yeah.
Yes. And I've actually listened to a few podcasts, like tech related podcasts. And there was one in particular, if I can find where it was, like I do want to share it with you because it was an interesting listening to. But essentially it's based here in the US. The conversation was people who were working in tech companies in the US, and they were interviewing all these Indian individuals who worked in tech. They were in engineering, they were in tech support, and so on and so forth. And a lot of them were saying that there are certain things they would do to try and hide who they actually were, because when they came across other Indians in the workplace, they knew that they would be treated differently because the caste system is ingrained in them, right? This is something that you learned growing up. So it doesn't matter that you are now all American citizens or whatever, the caste system still exists. And so some of them would literally change their last names because people would know that that particular last name belonged to this group of people who live in this region, and therefore folks would be disrespected. So even though you may have come to the US, you're living the American dream, you're now a senior director or even a VP at a certain company, if word ever got out that your last name was XYZ, the lower people on the totem pole, right, the support people basically would spit on you, essentially. Like that's how they were being treated. And they were saying how HR could not assist them because even though HR is like, oh no, it's equality and it's this and it's that, it's their cultural belief. It's just how they are as a people. And so it was a combination of if they knew what your name was, they would treat you differently. And then if you were of a darker complexion, it was assumed that your family worked in the fields or worked outside. And so people were saying like, yeah, it's a struggle when we're working here in these American companies. And I was just like, what? That's something that I never really considered. But we know that colorism runs rampant in our community too, right? We
Right.
know that there's still those like ingrained ideals that we have sometimes. And going back to the movie, we did see like an example. I mean, we see the example in general with like how the poor are treated, but we also saw an example where Baba Shakti was speaking on stage. And while he was on stage, they
Hmm.
had an Indian who was of a much darker complexion, and he was literally holding the umbrella over this man's head. And I'm like, "Ah, it's right in your face, right there. You can see it." MNTV family, Mike, he says, collective eye roll on that. And this is from when I was talking about Hinduism. Granted, every religion says some version of that, right? That all of us are equal, that we should, be against discrimination. And he added the all equal my rear, LOL. That's true. Going back to what you were saying earlier, Curtis, it's like there's a lot of things that, beliefs and ideals and cultural stuff that appears to be different, but when you get to the root of it, it's like it's the same old,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hey,
Exactly.
Latoya, thank you so much for
Hmm.
joining us. We're so glad that you are here. Really, really do appreciate you. And one more time with Mike, he says, the more things change, the more things stay the same. As the saying goes, there is nothing new under the sun, unfortunately. All right, so we've talked about Baba Shakti, and did I just lose my notes? I think I did. So I'm going to give that a second to come up. Oh no, not in the middle of the live. Come on
Oh no, you good. But
now.
yeah, I just fill it with some more about how he was just a grimy politician. I mean, right down to even where they hung out and the things that they did. It was an elite class, and in that elite class, they were very, you know, I definitely got richer and poorer vibes for sure. So there were so many different aspects that you had going on. Are we still talking about the religion? Cause
Well, you talked about the rich and the poor, so let's just continue going with the characters. Let's talk about Queenie Kapoor.
okay,
So, when we are introduced to Queenie, and let me just kind of give you all this little backstory right here. Okay, so we know that these fight rings are happening. We know that our main character, we'll just keep calling him Kid for now. We know that he is, living in the poorest of the poor in that community. But one thing that we learn is their resourcefulness and how they have this amazing network. And of course, we don't get the backstory. There's not enough time in the movie, but there's this amazing system network connections that they have where if you want something done, if you have a question, if you need something, all of them are working together hand in hand. And so there's this really interesting scene where there's a kid who's giving Monkey Man some information, some details, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what's this all about? But he shows him a picture of this woman, and he's like, this is her name, this is her schedule, so on and so forth. And then you see this blind man in a wheelchair that's like making his way through. He's trying to sell, he's got some little gods and deities, and he's trying to sell them. And he bumps up against this same woman, and he reaches in her purse and he steals her wallet. And then, Curtis, what happens with her wallet?
yeah, that was definitely in my notes. Just how connected they were. It's like, man. So he knocked over the wallet, and well, no, actually, he knocked over the table to put
Yes.
her attention this way. And while her attention is over here looking at this, he grabs the wallet and then he takes off. As he takes off, he gets up, he starts walking because he was never paralyzed to begin with. And they
Right.
basically do hot potato with the wallet, and they pass it all around until basically the wallet, well, not even basically, the wallet ends up back in Monkey Man's possession, who wanted it to begin with. So it's this
Mhm.
long paper trail. I mean, it goes through a restaurant, it goes through somebody's apartment, like it goes all over, and then it ends up where he wanted it to be, which was with him. And then he
Yep.
takes it, he grabs a card, he gives her the wallet back. He doesn't, the what was her name, Queenie?
Queenie.
Queenie, yeah, he gives Queenie her wallet back with her
Hmm.
card, and he's like, "Hey, I want a job." And
Hmm.
so the whole play was not to take money, not to steal her identity or anything like that. It was just an opportunity so that he could get a job at the building, which also goes back into the cash sales system
Right.
because, had he just walked in there and asked for a job, she would have never hired him. So, it was this long play for him to get into the system.
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yep. So he gets there to her building. He's telling her he wants to get hired. She's kind of like, thanks for the wallet. Here's a little cash, go on about your business. And she's still not interested in hiring him until he shows her his hands. So what we learn about Monkey Man is when you look at your hands right now, you've got your whatever people call them, lifelines or whatever. You got your lines on your hands, you've got your fingerprints on your hands. This helps us identify who you are. But when he shows us his hands, all of this is gone and it comes across as though it's been like burn, like maybe from acid or something like that, because it's a bit disfigured, but his palms are all torn up. And so he tells her, basically, these are the hands of a working man. These are the hands of someone who will do the jobs that no one else is willing to do. And he knows that those jobs exist in her organization. And so that's what he uses as his way to get in and get hired. And she's like, yeah. And so Queenie hires him and he starts off working in the kitchen. So we've got Monkey Man working in the kitchen and he's like, wiping pots and pans and cleaning and this, that, and the other. And then we're introduced to our next character, which is Alfonso. Now, when Alfonso showed up on the scene, I was like, here we go. In
Right.
every movie, when someone is trying their best, right? You're doing the best that you can with what you got. You're trying to make it in this world. There's always some person that's going to come and harass you. And so that
Right.
is Alfonso for us in the beginning. He shows up. He's like, he just comes across as like a little shark. He's like shady. He's causing a ruckus and getting on everybody's nerves in the kitchen. And then it's like, oh, it's a new guy. I'm going to go pick on him. And so he makes his way over to pick on Monkey Man and he asks him what his name is. And Curtis, what does Monkey Man finally tell us what his name is?
Hmm. So he tells us that his name is Bobby, but the kicker is his name ain't Bobby. We never find out what his name is. By the way, we till this day we still don't know, and it's not because we missed it. They intentionally never told us what this guy's name is.
Right.
So he came up with the name Bobby on the fly because he says my name's Bobby, and then the camera pans over and you see a tin can of bleach. And on the name of the bleach, the brand is Bobby. Like how we
Yep.
have Clorox, their Clorox is Bobby. So that's where his name came from, and that's how he decided that he was Bobby. And really quick, just to kind of double back on Alfonso, it was Alfonso, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Alfonso, and then as the movie progressed, it was kind of like a duality. I guess that's the best word. Or like two sides of the same coin. Because you look at Alfonso and you immediately think, oh, this dude is a snake. He's into something. He's dirty. He's grimy. He's just this nasty person. But the nastiest person in the movie by far was Baba Shakti, which was the religious guy.
Right.
So I thought that that was pretty interesting how they went out their way to make Alfonso what you see is what you get. He's the one, hey man, you want some drugs? I got this, I got that,
Yep.
but really, he's just the face. He's just the bottom of the totem pole. Like by the time you get
Mm-hmm.
to the top, you don't even realize that this guy is the one that's running everything because he's so polished and clean. So,
Right. Yep. It's like he's so far removed. He's got all these minions, all these pawns doing his dirty work so that he can keep his hands clean. And if something happens to any of them, like I think you mentioned this earlier, it doesn't matter, right? He'll just replace them with somebody else who's willing to do the bidding. And you're right. When I first saw Alfonso, I'm like, dang, he's going to be a problem for us. But it was like, I instantly changed my thoughts when we went out to Alfonso's car. So I don't know the proper term, but it's just a narrow, like three-wheeled type vehicle. If you've ever watched like movies or shows that are set in India, you've seen these types of vehicles going down the streets. People will hail them kind of like taxis and such. And so he has one, but it's souped up. He's got like nos on it and like all kinds of stuff. Like it's not what you would traditionally think. The thing is very fast. Do you remember what he called it? What was the nickname for
I
it, Curtis?
do. He called it Nicki Minaj. What was it? Because the top was heavy and the back was thick, or something like that.
Yes.
And it was definitely souped up. Like it could have been in Fast Seven with Jason Momoa. Like that thing had Nas and nitrous in it, and they definitely did a couple Fast and Furious stunts with that little dune buggy type thing.
Yeah,
So
they did. They
yeah.
did. And it was funny because I mean, this is where like I think I first started to notice the music of the movie. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think when they got in it and were riding together, I want to say it was a Kendrick Lamar song that was playing. I didn't look up the soundtrack to see for sure, but it was interesting because when I started to hear some of the music, we heard, Indian music, obviously, but then when we would hear other types of music, I'm like, was that Jordan's contribution, right? Like his production helping me say, like, hey, add a little bit of this and add a little bit of that in there. So yeah, that's good. So we have Alfonso. Okay, so we've got Bobby now with a name, right? He's working in the kitchen and stuff. He's working with Alfonso, and we find that Bobby is now trusted by Queenie because Queenie invites him to be the one to come into her office and give her tea. Which my first thought was, okay, well, if he has any problems with this woman, he could just put something in her teeth, right? Like that's what I was thinking since she allowed him to be in there. But that's also where we learned that Alfonso is somebody, so to speak, like still low on the totem pole, but he's somebody because Queenie does trust him. I mean, that's what I got, that she does trust him because she kind of sends him out to do her bidding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, where he's the face of the nefarious activity. So
Mhm.
Queenie was a little bit higher on the totem pole, so she had to keep her image clean. So they kept him around, and he was kind of like a do boy,
Yeah.
or yeah, he was definitely like a do boy, but he did the dirty work that nobody else could do because they had to keep their hands clean. So that
Hmm.
was more so his role in the organization.
Yeah, and as to be expected, she was hella disrespectful to this man, talking to him any kind of way, like not appreciative, and you could see the change in him, right? He was so cocky when he first met Bobby, and when he's like walking through the kitchen, but then Queenie is like, get out of here, stop talking to people, and go out here and do this and that, and it's just kind of like, yes, like it's just a complete different dynamic, and so now that Bobby knows that Alfonso has certain access in this whole organization, he now wants to like befriend him. He realizes now, like, okay, Alfonso is not someone for me to just ignore. This is someone that I should try to get ingrained with because he's got the intel, he's got the access, he has all the information and things like that. And so we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but initially it wasn't entirely clear like why he even cares to move up, right? It seemed like, okay, well, if you're now working at this place and washing dishes and stuff, then you might not have to go do the monkey man fighting anymore, right? It's like you've got a regular 9 to 5. Why do you still need
Right.
to go out there and fight? But he's still doing the fighting, so much so that he invites Alfonso to one of the fights, right, Curtis?
Oh yeah. And the purpose of doing that was so that he could build trust with Alfonso so he could move up into the organization. And I think the movie did a really good job of moving the story forward without fully explaining to you what was going on. And it gradually builds up, and I think the music, as you mentioned earlier, had a lot to do with that because, the music, once certain scenes come up, the music changes and it fits the theme, and it was like an extra character. So and also I think it's very important to talk about how when he is the monkey man, as far as in the fights and how the fights are fixed, he's losing. Like we never see him really put up a fight at all. Like he's
No.
always losing, always getting beat up, to the point where he's not even like, it was almost like a torture thing where he's just constantly getting beat up and not doing anything at all. Like, so
Hmm.
I think that was crucial because that's how he built the relationship with Alfonso, telling him to bet a lot on me because I'm going to lose. And so he
Yes.
made the money, and then next thing you know, you see him dressed up in the suit. And I think that was something that you want to touch on with, him being dressed up and all crispy and clean after a major fight.
Listen, every time we saw him fighting, like Curtis said, he was getting the brakes beat off of him. So much so that when they would zoom in on the monkey mask, you literally saw blood coming from the nose of the mask as well as the mouth of the mask. So all these fights are happening. I mean, we don't get the full timeline, but it almost feels like he's getting his butt whooped every night. And then he's going into work the next day scrubbing dishes, and he has like no cuts, no bruises, no busted lip, no black eye, no nothing. And I'm like, what is really going on?
Mhm.
But I mean, it works his advantage because I'm sure if he came in the job every day looking all toe up, they probably would have fired him. So I just had to like hit the I believe button on that one and not like get so caught up on it as I was watching the story.
And now kind of going back to what you said at the beginning about the monkey man having powers, maybe that was just a power that we didn't know, that no matter how bad he got beat up, he just would naturally heal. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching there, but that's the
Oh,
only way I can explain that, and it makes sense because
yes.
immediately after the fight you can see the cuts and the scars and the scrapes, but then the next scene it's like brand new.
Brand
Nothing
new.
happened.
Yep, fine, no issues. There could be something to that. There could be some more symbolism, that's a little more ingrained in the culture. That's a good call out. So yeah, so he's like, Alfonso, bet on the Monkey Man. It's gonna be me. Monkey Man loses, Alfonso wins the money. So now the two of them are coup de la, which it's a terrible reason for someone to be like, I trust you, let's be friends. You help me, get some money. But the beauty is now we're kind of moving up in the echelon of the organization. We've gone from being in the kitchen to now we're heading up to VIP. And so when we get to VIP, Bobby's new job is to serve champagne and wine. And so now we get a chance to see exactly what type of business this is. We get a little hint because we see Queenie in the office and she's on the phone and she's like going through a portfolio and it's pictures of all these women from around the world. Let me just say girls because they look very young. And she's like yelling at people on the phone, basically saying like, I want the one on page 19. I want this one. I want that one. So when we get into the VIP space, we see what's really going on. This is like a high priced brothel, I guess you could say.
Right.
There it's all of these, probably celebrities, rich people, political people, folks from the higher echelon who are coming to this place to just relax with any woman of their choice. They've got the caviar, they've got the wine, they've got champagne, and all of this is going
The
on. And so now
cocaine.
we see that Bobby's in cocaine. Everything you could ever think of, right, is going on in this space. And so now Bobby has graduated up to it. And so when we're there in this space, we see that he comes face to face with a person in particular. And so this picture here is what we had seen in a flashback. Bobby was sleeping, had this dream, and it was a flashback of this particular man. There's like fire all around him, and we don't quite understand why. But when he goes up to the VIP space, we now see this man face to face. And so, Curtis, please tell us, who is this man?
Um, what was his name? Rana Singh.
Uh
Rana
huh.
Singh. Rana
Yeah.
Singh. Yeah. So I guess we just come on out with it.
Let's just do it at this point. Let's do it.
So this is who we think is the main villain. He is the one that directly kills his mother and burns down the village, and is the reason that his hands looked bleached and scarred because the little boy was trying to save his mom, and in the process he burned his hand. So
Mhm.
this right here is who we are initially led to believe is the big bad of the film.
Hmm. And now it all makes sense. They did the whole crazy network thing in order to steal this woman's wallet. And then he used that as access in order to start working there. And then he befriends Alfonso to move up to VIP. And ultimately, is so he can get access to this man who is the chief of police, from my understanding. And it was him and all the other cops who came in when Bobby was a child. And caused all this destruction and trauma. And so it's like, okay. So he's been playing the long game, right? He's been like waiting for this opportunity to finally get in there. He's now face to face to this man. Now we see the anger and everything in his eyes when he sees this man. But in the midst of all of that, we are introduced to another character. Could not find her picture, but I had to look up her name, and her name is Saida. I think that's how it's pronounced, Sita. And so we see that this is a woman who is around him and she's around some of the other men as well. She has this tattoo. Curtis, I could not find the name of the actual bird of the tattoo that's on her, but essentially it looks like a sparrow. And
Mm-hmm.
so Bobby makes a connection with this woman. She helps him in one instance. So she's like, schmoozing with some man. She's a good character, but she's doing what she's got to do right in that space. So she's talking to
She's a
some man.
prostitute.
And what was that?
She's a prostitute.
Yeah, okay. Yes, she's a prostitute. I try to be nice. Yes. She's a prostitute, call a spade a spade. And Bobby makes a mistake and pours the wrong wine in the wrong glass. And so while he's being berated, she slides the proper glass over him, redirects the angry man's attention. And so that's kind of like how they make their connection. But he sees her again when she's sitting on the chief's lap. And so fun fact about her, Curtis, this is something that I found when I looked it up. So her name is Saida, Sita. When you're reading the story about Hanuman, the monkey man, you learn that he used his powers to help. It was a prince. I want to say his name was Rama. He was a legendary prince of that time, and his wife had gotten captured for, like short description. And so Hanuman used his powers to help that prince get his wife back. His wife's name was Saida. So this would be an Easter egg that's like a nod to people who know the culture, who know the story. I mean, you and I wouldn't have known that because we didn't know the backstory. But I thought that was a fun fact that he gave her that name of Saida. So that was kind of what we saw of Saida in a nutshell. Honestly, though, Curtis, did you think Saida was pregnant? And the only reason why I asked that is because when we saw her initially, before we knew anything else about her, she was getting berated by Queenie in Queenie's office. If you
That's who that
remember,
was.
that was her.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, she definitely was pregnant. I saw that part and I didn't think much of it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I thought that was just fluff. That it was just showing that Queenie can lay down the law and kind of
Mhm.
tighten up the women when she needs to. I didn't even realize that was Saida, or yeah, that caught me off guard. I didn't know that. So yeah. That's why
Yeah,
you probably have to watch the movie more than once. Little things like that.
exactly right. You have to go back and watch it. Okay, so we've met the chief and we've also met Saida. And then I just threw this in there because I just have a soft spot. But one of the other characters that we meet is a stray dog. Tell us about the stray dog, Curtis.
The stray dog.
The stray dog, yes. So it basically happened right after Bobby had the opportunity to finally see Rana Singh, right? He finally has come face to face and locked eyes on this man who has caused all of this havoc in his life, right? And so he storms outside, goes out the back of the building. He's trying to get himself together. Saida is out there as well. She comes to him and she's like, if you can't stomach this, like you can't be a part of this. And so this stray dog comes up and Bobby's feeding the dog. And Saida's like, she says something along the lines of like, stop feeding this dog. You're going to give it hope. And when she said that, I'm just like, that has to be some stronger meaning, like some symbolism. Did you think so, Curtis?
Yeah, for sure. I think that she was kind of talking about herself. I looked at it as if, she was saying, don't feed the dog, or, don't have so much compassion or sympathy for people like me because you're going to give us hope.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. Like the dog was a representation of her, and, even on a deeper level, like the poor people, don't help out the poor people because if you do, you're going to give them hope.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And being in this type of space where it's like, you're essentially hopeless because there's such a vast difference between the people who are like the gods, right? The gods were in the VIP room and everyone else that's poor. Like, there's no way you're going to have a chance of bettering your situation. So it's like, why even try, right? It's not even worth it. So that was pretty sad to see, but he didn't give up. And I think the reason why he didn't give up, like twofold, right? So he continues feeding the dog, y'all. The dog, like, now become his best friend. Dog's hanging around, he's feeding the dog. He's teaching the dog how to be a part of their network, which we'll talk about in a minute. So now it's like, not only are we exchanging things via, people, but we got a dog in the mix too that's also helping us with the network and the system. But we see that he's continuing to work so hard because it's like now he's got a second win, right? I've found the man who I want to get rid of. And so now it's time to go get a gun. And he does. He goes and gets, I call it a cowboy gun. I guess it's a revolver.
A little 6 shooter.
Yeah. So he's got the cowboy gun. He's now got access. So it's just like open air and opportunity, right? For him to go right in there and kill Rana Singh. Was that your thought, that it's like, all right, he got the gun, he can get in there to the man, so he about to, bust a couple caps in him and then end the movie, right?
Right. That's literally how it seemed. Like that was the plan, and they kind of went through with it. Like, eventually you got to the point where, okay, so this is the plan. This is the movie. This is what's about to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
so in my mind, I'm thinking the rest of the movie we just have a bunch of fighting, and he's just gonna be fighting until the end of the movie because I don't really see this going anywhere else. Like he's doing this and he's practicing his shot and he's just gonna shoot the man and then he's just gonna fight the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking so too. And I'm like, watching the fight scene just had me I was cringing the entire time. So just to catch y'all up real quick. So he's moved on. Like at first, Bobby was serving everyone wine and like champagne, and just like Curtis mentioned earlier, now he's moved on. He's the dope boy, I guess. But it's not like in the traditional dope boy sense. No, they've got these like golden test tubes with the cocaine in it, and he's got like some little tweezers or something, and he's handing it to each person, and it's just like over the top. And so if we go back a little bit to where Bobby got his name, so we mentioned that he got it from bleach. It's a powdered version of bleach. So in my eyes, I'm thinking like Ajax, if you all are familiar with that. So it's powdery, similar to cocaine. And so this is honestly where I thought Bobby was going to kill Rana Singh, because he mixes some of it up in Rana's cocaine. And so when Rana wants the cocaine, he's like, here you go, sir. Like immediately he was there with it, gave it to him. He puts it on a woman's leg, snorts it up, lays back. He's enjoying it. And then all of a sudden he's starting to cough and he ends up in the bathroom. So I thought he was going to die at that point. And I'm like, good. We didn't even need to use the gun. But no, because I mean, he's a fiend. So all it did, it caused a slight irritation, but it put him in the bathroom, which meant he was alone. And so that's when Bobby is in there. He's got the gun. He's going to shoot him. He, has his moment, which we see in movies all the time. And Curtis, I want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts about movies where it's like the hero finally has their moment, right? Like this is your chance to go ahead and avenge whatever, solve whatever. And they have that moment where they want to say a few last parting words, or they want to pause for a minute. Like, how do you feel during those moments in movies?
um, I get it. I think it builds conflict because if they just go ahead on and do it, so I know heroes do it from time to time, but villains are notorious for doing it. Like they have to explain their evil villain plan, and as they're explaining their evil villain plan, the hero just magically gets out somehow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they just go through with their plan and they don't explain it and they don't talk about it, then it kills the conflict because now it's over. Like
Right.
it's
That's true.
done. You killed him. Now what? Do you
Yeah.
just go to fighting your way out the rest of the movie? It just pushes the story along just a little longer if you drag it out and you have those moments. And I think that's kind of just a storytelling device that we just haven't seemed to get rid of.
Right. Yep. And so essentially that, as you all may have guessed, that's what happens here. Or if you've seen it, you already know. So he doesn't end up killing him. Crazy fight scene in this bathroom. The gun goes in the toilet. There's poop everywhere. Y'all, it was too much for me. I was just like, like cringing, cover my face. I missed most of it, but it was pretty wild scene where they did all of this fighting. So he does not kill Rana. He's able to get away. He's running. And of course, Rana is with the police, right? So now the police are involved. Alfonso is also involved because that's who escorted him up into that space. And so now the two of them are on the lam in his Nicki Minaj vehicle. And I thought they were going to get away. I honestly did, because the vehicle's very fast. They're bobbing and weaving, maneuvering through the streets of India, only to be thwarted by a child. I'm like, man, kids
Mm.
always be messing stuff up. Not your kids, just
Oh no,
these kids.
definitely my kid.
Yes, a little girl is in the middle of the street at God knows what time, and they slam on brakes in order not to hit her. They get hit, knocked over. And so Yeah, he gets captured. And so at that point, Alfonso is able to get away. He apologizes. He's like, sorry, but basically I gotta go. But Bobby gets captured. And I thought, like, okay, this is it. He's now been captured. They're gonna put him in jail. Rana's gonna torture him. I don't know how he's gonna get out of this one. But to me, there was symbolism here because he comes to, he's in the back of a paddy wagon. He's kind of assessing where he is. There's all these cops that are sitting like along the seats of the paddy wagon. He's on the floor and he's handcuffed. But it, to me, it just came across as like, even when the chips are down, even when your back is against the wall, if you are a person that has nothing to lose, you will still fight. You will not give up. And that's exactly what he does. Like, he fights his way out of it. Did that feel believable or realistic to you, Curtis? Or was it like, come on, man?
So that was kind of where I began to question India in totality because I'm like, maybe they just don't have the resources, and that could be a realistic scenario where you just have criminals just breaking out and getting away because they don't have. I don't want to sound obtuse, you know what I'm saying? But like, when we see India, India don't look like here. So, maybe their police cars are the little Nicki Minaj vehicle things with the three wheels, and you could just kick the door and run. I don't know. That's ignorance on my part. So, whether it was believable or not, I don't know.
That's true. That is a good point to try to relate it to, like, what would it be like in a real world scenario. So we just have to hit the I believe. I believe that if he, got up and fought his way, he could kick the door open and get out and run. And that's exactly what he does, which starts this crazy chase all over the city, the community, the little neighborhood or whatever. And there was one part of the chase that really just like threw me. So his fights begin in the upscale brothels, right? In Queenie's Place. But then as he's running from the cops, he ends up in like a ghetto brothel, right? And I mean, they let us see everything. I was like, oh, that's too much. So
Right.
he's like running through, flipping through, and people are doing what they do in brothels. And now he's got to fight the man who owns the brothel, and dude has an axe. And they are like going at it. And this was where we saw, like, we've seen Monkey Man fight when it comes to being in the ring, right? And we know that he was like throwing those matches and he was always losing, and it was more of a traditional boxing type fight. And then of course we saw him when he was fighting Rana Singh when they were in the bathroom. But when he was fighting that man in the brothel, that was the first time we saw him like use his teeth, and I was like, he has actually turned into a monkey. Like the way he was jumping around, he bit the man's nose off. Like it was a lot that was going on. But again, when your back is against the wall and the chips are down and you have nothing to lose and you're just all about survival, flight, like, doing everything you need to do in order to get out of there, he did all of those things. Unfortunately, he got shot though, y'all. The cop shot
Yeah.
him.
And
He
fell
fell into
into the nastiest, dirtiest water I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, it was broth, y'all. It wasn't just water. And
Yeah.
I don't have like all of the backstory, but if you've ever, again, watched movies or maybe even seen documentaries and things about India, you do know that the water is like heavily polluted there. And it's just because of all the activity that's happening. They're like washing clothes or washing themselves. They're doing like religious rituals and things with like family members. There's animals that are running through it. Like, and then of course, there's just what, like, I don't know, at least a billion people like all cramped in one place. And so yeah, even for us, like, watching him in the water, we could barely see him. It was just so thick, so murky. And I think, Curtis, this is when you and I were talking earlier, you're like, but he just landed right here in the water, like y'all can't just get him. Right, like this is a manhunt.
Right. Like you're a fugitive. You're on the news, you're on TV, like everybody's looking for you and you fell in the water and you got shot. Nobody's going to confirm the body. Like that kind of threw me off.
Yep. So he is able to get away, and this is where we are introduced to another character, and we get to see this character in two different ways. Now, I did not catch this character's name originally in the movie. I looked it up later, but Ernest, just to ask, did you happen to catch their name in the beginning?
It was Alpha. Alpha.
Yes. Okay, good. I did not catch it. I don't know how I missed it, but yeah, this person's name was Alpha, which was an interesting choice to name them Alpha, considering this individual is a trans person. And typically, when we think alpha male, right? Testosterone and this, that, and the other. Now, there was a little in reference to the trans community just really briefly before we get to this point in the story. And it was just a part of like the newscast. So here and throughout, we kind of hear, Bobby will be in a space where there's news playing, and we'll just kind of hear like what's happening, right? There's like civil unrest that's happening. There's actual an election that's coming up as well. So there's a lot going on there in India. And there's this brief reference to how individuals in the trans community are being persecuted and oppressed. They're being like pushed out and this, that, and the other. And so now we get a glimpse of what it's like for that community and like people who have rallied around and to support them. So we're introduced to Alpha. So Curtis, what were your initial thoughts about Alpha?
Um, the name made sense because he was the leader, so he was the alpha of that group.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood that. Um, I understood why they were the way that they were as far as the trans people because of the God that they worshipped, which was the half man, half female. I don't remember the name of that God specifically.
I missed that name
Um,
too. Let me look it up.
Let me see. Maybe I could look it up really quick. Um, ooh, I see it, but I there's no way I can pronounce that.
I see Shiva, not the long name, but the short one. It says Shiva.
Okay, Shiva is the short name. We'll go with that
Mm-hmm.
because the long name, yeah. I'm gonna drop it in the chat.
Just so y'all can see, like, it's not that we don't want to say it, but definitely don't want
Right.
to butcher it.
Yeah, I would love to say it, but my mouth doesn't even move in that way to
Mm-mm.
even try to even begin to comprehend that. Like Arda Hanshvara. Yeah.
You're probably close.
So I definitely understood that aspect. It made a lot of sense. Um and more than anything, kind of going back to the religion thing, it kind of confused me because, and I'll say it without getting too deep, it's just hard to figure out what the overall theme was because there's so many different religions all at play at once. It's hard to figure out how how it controls the flow of the story, which ultimately we don't find out until the end. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I understood why those people specifically, resorted to that God in particular. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, Alpha was just like, this pivotal character because we've just watched Bobby go through everything that he's been doing and he's just been on his own, right? It's just been him. I mean, yeah, he's got his network and support system and that's kind of getting him intel and resources. But ultimately it's like it's his plan, one track mind. I'm getting in there, I'm killing this chief of police because he killed my mom and like that's it, that's all. And now that plan doesn't exist anymore, right? Like you had your chance, you messed up, you're now everybody knows who you are, right? Like you can't hide anymore. So what are you going to do now? And it was just a blessing that he was able, like Alpha and their in the community were able to find him because they nurse him back to health. And so now he has these moments with Alpha where Alpha can really talk to him. And the biggest thing that he does is he takes him back to his roots. And I say this like literally and figuratively. So remember earlier I was talking about Bobby's hands, Monkey Man's hands, and I was saying how he no longer had the lines. And in one of his flashbacks, his mom is talking to him about the lines on his hands, and she's saying these lines essentially are like the roots. And so their family, their people come from the jungle. And all throughout, she's taking him outside. They're in the jungle. He can see the root system, but that's gone now. As Curtis said before, his mom had been killed and then she was set on fire and he was trying to help her and ended up burning that off his hands. And so it's like, I don't have my roots. I don't have my mom. I don't have my support system. I'm just out here on my own. And so Alpha is the one who helps him recognize it, like you aren't out here on your own. And so he literally takes him, you can see here in the picture, to this space where there's these like deep roots of these trees. And there's like a fruit or a nut or something where if you inhale the powder, it kind of sends you on a trip. And so that's what he, decides to do. Alpha's like, are you ready? He's going to send him on this trip. so that he can, get in touch with his past. And one of the quotes of the things that he said, he lets him know, like, this is going to be painful. It is going to hurt. And he says, the pain will leave you once it's finished teaching you. And I was like, oh man, like bars, right? The pain will leave you once it's finished teaching you. So, Curtis, you kind of mentioned this earlier, but like, what's the painful realization that he essentially has when he goes back in his mind's eye to when he was a child?
Hmm. Before I answer that question, we got to take a pause for the cause and
Yeah.
shout out Nikki P, who is in the building.
Woo!
Y'all, if you have
Yes.
not subscribed to Nikki P, if you have not seen Nikki P, then you definitely have to go subscribe to her channel, man. Without Nikki, we wouldn't even be doing this right now. She connected everybody. If you like rap, she's like the RZA of Wu Tang Clan. If you like comics, she's like the Nick Fury that just put everybody together. Whoever you can think of, the person that was just the mastermind that just put everybody together where they were supposed to be, that is Nikki, man. So definitely shout out to her, man. Just coming through and gracing us with her presence. We
Absolutely.
definitely, yeah, man, RZA, all of them. I could keep going. You like the man? I can't keep going. It's a little late, but whoever it is, that's you. You're the organizer. You're the one that put everybody together and made all of
Mhm.
this possible, man. So definitely shout out to Nikki P in the building, y'all.
Yes.
Um, but ultimately, he had to come to grips with the fact that, his mom died, I think, and just relive those painful memories and, experience it because it seemed like throughout the movie he just wasn't really dealing with it. He never processed it or anything like that. He just was maneuvering and just going through life and that trip, I guess, kind of like when people go and they do ayahuasca, I think that's what it's called,
Yeah. That's
in
what
the
I was thinking
Amazon woods
too.
and stuff, or I
Mhm.
guess the equivalent would be like when people do LSD and they go on the acid trips. Like that's kind of
Mhm.
what he did, and he just came to terms with the situation, and
Yeah.
he had to go back and just process it, and then that gave him the strength to move forward.
It gave him the strength to move forward, and it allowed him to really put things, like you were saying, to process and to really put it in perspective, because he just had this one track mind. And this was a child's memory, right? And the child's memory is, I'm going after the man who murdered my mom. I watched it happen. So this is who I'm going to get my revenge on. But we get one little glimpse from when he was a child. Yes, he knows that this man is the one that killed his mom. So yeah, put him on the list. He needs to go down as well. But he briefly remembers seeing this super duper fancy car that I guess is like a Rolls Royce, and the emblem of it was a lion. It turns out that Baba Shakti, the one and only religious leader, was the one who was in that vehicle. That's the one who was calling the shots all along. And so when Bobby does finally come out of, this trip that he's on, it's like now he has a new plan, right? Before, the plan was just, let me go kill, Chief Rana. He wasn't able to kill him, so he's kind of like defeated. But now it's like, no, I got somebody else on my list, right? Now I'm gonna go after
Mm-hmm.
Baba Shakti as well. And so just kind of fast forward a bit. I didn't realize how long we've been going. Thank you for staying in here with
Right.
us, y'all. And thank you so much, Curtis. I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit. So he goes, Bobby's now, he's like in a training camp, right? He's there with Alpha, he's there in the community, he's training, he's getting stronger. And one of the things that Alpha did say to him, which was like another good quote, he talked about him being like one small ember. And he said something along the lines of like, one small ember can like cause a big flame or something. But you can kind of see that like everyone is getting this renewed sense of purpose, and everyone is starting to feel a bit more stronger because they've got, for lack of a better term, like a savior in their mix, in their
Mm-hmm.
midst, right? They got this guy who is like downtrodden and he's been through so much, but he's fighting back. He's encouraging them. He's inspiring them. And so I definitely love to see that. And so Bobby's healthy. Bobby's making his way now, right? He's got this new plan. And so one of the plans is to go back to the fight ring. And actually, I was kind of confused by that at the beginning, because we see him at this temple in this space that you can kind of see here in the picture where they're all staying. They have I guess you could say like a chest. he breaks open the chest and there's money in the chest and he takes it. And I'm like, whoa, Bobby, wait, like, why are you taking the people's money? And then from there, we make our way back to the fight ring. So, Curtis, did you understand what was happening as we were going through those scenes?
Um, no, I was confused why he was taking the money, but then once he went there, it kind of made sense. I
Mhm.
just took it as he was betting on himself, which it turned out it was, because it's like you take the money and you go fight, and it's like, well, why would you do that? But oh, maybe you plan on, because also right before that happened, they got an eviction notice. I guess you could say that they were about to leave, and then
Yeah.
he thought about what Alpha told him, and that's when he was like, I'm gonna just bet on myself. And so, I kind of realized, once he, not when he took the money, but once he popped back up, I'm like, because then remember the little boy went to the thing too with the bag of money and he
Right.
dropped it off too. So, it kind of
Mhm.
made sense. He was taking that bet on himself. I just didn't expect for the Undertaker to pop up, not the literal Undertaker, but this giant big dude to come out as the opponent. I'm like, oh, he about to lose these people money, but
Uh-huh.
he
I was worried
didn't.
about that too, right? And it was an interesting little thing, but the person that he had to fight this time, it was the same guy that he fought in the beginning. They called the guy the Cobra or the Snake. So in the beginning, we saw him fight this guy and he lost. And it was a rigged fight, but still he lost. And this time, when it was time to fight him, like he didn't even fight him. He just jumped up and kicked him once, and dude was out cold. And so that kind of threw things off for Tiger, the fight leader or whatever, but he just tried to still roll with it. And so, yeah, when this Undertaker character came out and he had to fight him, again, he went back into Monkey Man mode, right? He was even like flipping and moving all around the ring as Monkey Man. And so, by him winning those fights, then he was able to, multiply the funds and the money was sent back to them. And so that was good, right? It's like his way of saying thank you to them. And then now it's time for him to go get his revenge. And so when he went to get the cowboy gun, the guy who gave him the gun, he made this reference to John Wick, but now we actually see it. He washes the Monkey Man mask, right? It's an all black suit, puts that on, makes his way back to Queenie's place, takes the mask off. So now there's no question as to who he is. And we know he's a wanted man, so that's risky because everybody knows your face. And he just works his way up in the building, fighting everybody, like just going crazy. But he's just one man, right? And he's not truly John Wick because he does get outnumbered. And so I've left this up on the screen because when he's at his lowest point and we feel like, uh-oh, it's over for Bobby, right? All these people are coming in to fight him. He's just one person. But we saw little glimpses of it, but now we see for sure. So Alpha and some members from the community, they show up to fight as well. And so we get this like beautiful dance. And we didn't really talk about it, but when he was going through his whole process of you know getting back well and working on his fighting, there was a person that had a drum and they were playing these two drums, and so it was kind of like him fighting was a dance. And now we actually see a dance when they are fighting. The clothes that they're wearing is like flowing around, so it's all of this like hard action gory stuff that's going on, but there's also a beauty in it because you see the swirl of the materials and stuff like that. So yeah. So Ernest, you want to take us on home here? I know I've held you hostage all this time, and also if you want to share something too about that fight scene. But ultimately, we do make our way up, and he fights the chief too.
Yeah, I think the fight scene was good. I think that's kind of where it made up for everything else because there were some kind of slow moments and it did kind of dry down a little bit. But then the fight scene definitely made up for that. And then he fights with the police chief and they kind of dragged it out a little bit, but ultimately he beat him. And
Mhm.
then he went up to Baba and he tried his little slick underhanded move. He had some shoes that had knives in them, and he took them and he stabbed them, and they fought it out, and ultimately Monkey Man won, but then he passed out. So we don't know if he died or what happened. Maybe that was to end this fight, and he just didn't have any reason to go on or what. They left it open, so I don't know.
Do you feel like there
Um,
might be another one?
I don't think so. Like I don't. I mean, unless he's just like the protector of the poor and there's some new person that's coming in and trying to exploit the people, then maybe he pops back up. But otherwise, I don't think that there's really anything left to tell for his story. You know, the
Yeah,
people that wronged him, he dealt with. So I
right.
don't think so. But
Yeah,
they've
that's
made plenty sequels of movies that probably shouldn't have. So,
that
mhm.
is a good point. But yeah, that like the last two fights, I think two things that caught my eye was when he was fighting Chief Rana, he picked up a woman's shoe and was beating him with the shoe. And I was like, oh, I'm like, that's for Saida and all the other prostitutes there in the brothel. That's also for the transgender community because you've been persecuting them. I'm like, beat him with that shoe. And he did, right? But then we get to the end, and Baba Shakti also has shoes, and it's like the tables are turned because the shoe that he used had hidden, I guess, knives or points in them or whatever, and so that's what he uses on Monkey Man. But then, of course, he ends up using it too. And I thought it was, I don't know a lot about this, but I thought it was really interesting though, because Monkey Man, even though he got stabbed, right, gets stabbed in the side and he twisted, he gets stabbed in the hand, he has enough energy in order to use that same weapon on Baba Shakti. And he says something along the lines of like, because he tries to beg for his life, which I mean, that's to be expected. He's dirty, he's underhanded. And he says something along the lines of like, only God can forgive you now. And he hits him right here between the eyes. And I was like, isn't that the third eye? Like the, transcendence or whatever. Like that's the spot that he used in order to kill you. Like, anyway, these are just like some things that I saw a little symbolism. But I'm pretty sure there's like a whole lot more to it. But yeah, so I put this up. Have you heard of this before? Slim asked if we'd ever seen, and I know I'm mispronouncing it, but Bahubali. He says it's really good. Have you heard of that, Curtis?
Mm-mm. No, I never heard of it. Bahubali. Mm-mm.
Okay. He says in the chat that he's going to send us some sites for us to go check it out. So, well, I definitely want to see. There probably some sort of reference or parallels between that and Monkey Man. So, but yeah, so y'all, we gave you the play by play. We said we were going to dive deep, and we did. We kind of gave our
Right.
commentary, right? Thoughts and feedback. We walked you through basically every scene. Was there anything, Curtis, that maybe we didn't touch on that you want to hit right quick?
Um, no, I think we did a very thorough covering of the movie. It touched on a lot of different things. More so the religious aspect. I think that was very heavy. I think they kind of definitely, made sure that we understood that there was a heavy religious presence in the movie. The class thing, they
Mhm.
definitely made sure we understood about the rich and the poor over there. So, yeah, I think it was pretty straightforward for the most part.
Yeah, I think so too. And you're right. There were a lot of themes. It's like those taboo themes that got touched in this, right? We had the religion, we had politics, even like mentioning of the transgender community. There was like sexuality in general because we went to the high end brothels and the low end brothels. It's like they really had us everywhere in this
Right.
movie. And so now that we've had a chance to talk about it, I'm excited to like now start to do some deep dive. So I did see on YouTube there is a video of Jordan Peele and Dev Patel interviewing one another. So I'm excited to go take a look at that, and of course read some of the reviews just to see if we were on the right track with the things that we called out. Well, Curtis, I know you're like, I ain't never doing a live with this girl again
Oh no,
because
I'm already plotting on the next one. We
oh,
do it again.
well,
Do it
you did
again.
mention Civil War. So we're definitely gonna have to check that one out. So y'all stay tuned to see what we do in terms of a review for that one. And if it wasn't on your list, go ahead and add it to your list now so that you can also watch it and y'all can come in and chit chat with us about it. So yeah, so Curtis, I'll let you, say some things and then I will close this out.
Okay. Well, definitely thank you to everybody that came through from the chat, man. We'll make sure we put all your information in the description so everyone can see it and support y'all. Definitely appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I definitely appreciate you for inviting me to your channel, Alicia. It's been really cool. I definitely enjoyed it. Um, I don't think that you got those subscribers. So I saw on my page that there were a lot of people that were trying to get in, but they couldn't. So I got to figure out how
No.
moving forward I can make that connection. Because I saw
Okay.
at least two people trying to watch on my channel. channel and they couldn't. So we'll
Okay.
figure it out. This was the test run. We got a lot of other things in store. So yeah, we keep going.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for everyone that showed up. It's always good to see our family in the building. So, yes, like Curtis said, we're going to have all of your YouTube links in the description box and encouraging everyone to subscribe. So, I appreciate y'all coming to help me out with my first live that went on and on and on. But this was fun. I mean, we were talking about a topic to me that I get excited about and I'm interested in. So, I think that's the secret sauce, right, Curtis? Do your
Oh yeah,
lives
you
on
did
topics.
excellent.
Good.
I forgot it was your first time.
Yeah, yep. This was my first one. So again, thank you all so much. And yes, if you are watching the replay at this point in time, I was 5 from 300 subscribers. So if you're watching the replay and you have not subscribed, please do help me to get over the threshold. And of course, there's going to be more lives like this to come. So again, thank you everyone so much for being here. We truly appreciate it. So y'all have a good night and yeah, stay tuned because we have more content that's coming on the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, take
Thanks,
care.
everybody. Not the loud cherry pop, and it was.